Okay, y'all, I wasn't gonna make this video, and then Papa Blackmagic had to drop one of the most beautiful gifts ever on our lap, which is a new Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera. They always come out with these little increment iterations, like with the A10 Mini, they had the A10 Mini, then like a couple months later they had the A10 Mini Pro, then a couple months later they had the A10 Mini Pro ISO, which we recently got and I love. So now they're doing it with the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera with the 6K Pro. So let's take a look. There we go. So the first thing you might notice is that Blackmagic saw people were modding their cameras and then just thought, oh, no, we can do that. We'll do that ourselves. So they made the flip up screen, which everybody has been modding on their own cameras. But something else you might notice is that it has a viewfinder now. So really this is trying to take some of those pro features that a lot of people like in like a Sony camera or, you know, DSLR mirrorless cameras like a viewfinder, and then trying to give it back to people because they notice that their screens for the Blackmagic cameras aren't always the best and you might need to put a hood over it or something so that you can see. Now, not only do they have the EVF so you can look in and make sure that there's no light bleed, but also this new LCD screen is both HDRI and it's 1500 nits. So that means that it is going to be super bright and it's going to be easier to see in the sunlight. So let's give a look at some of the other features. Like this, wait a sec. I've seen this photo before. I think it was on like a forum or something on Facebook and I saw this photo like a couple weeks ago. I think I actually saw this leaked and somebody... It's because I saw this and I was like, this is weird. What is this camera? Yeah, wow. I think I got this leaked on accident. Either that or they just subbed out the camera in like an old image. But sorry, this is freaking me out. Anyway, so, because I distinctly remember this guy. Anyway, so yeah, we see the flip up screen and we see the viewfinder. So yeah, I mean, we'll see how well this works out. This could be photoshopped and him being able to see that screen could be completely false and that you actually have like some sort of glare on there. But let's keep looking. This is very similar to the other Blackmagic cameras. Yep. We have the carbon fiber, so it's nice and light. And yep, here we go. We have the 4K, 6K, 6K Pro. So the main things that we know already, definitely, are that the 4K has a micro four thirds sensor, so a smaller sensor, does 4K. 6K has a super 35 sensor, and it does 6K, but it takes EF mount lenses. The main reason we got the 6K is because we have a bunch of Canon lenses, so we're like, well, I don't want to use it. I am adverse to lens adapters because they are a big point of, for me at least, I've had lens adapters that just fail in the middle of a shoot and I'm like, well, now what are we going to do? I can't change the f-stop on my lens. I can't do this other stuff. So by just having a native lens mount, I feel like it's way better. So that's why we got the 6K. But then now we have the 6K Pro, which has the same sensor, same size, but two major things. Different screen / viewfinder, you know, ways to view things. But it also has another small thing that it takes another mini XLR. So now it has two XLR inputs. But the big thing is that it has ND filters. Oh my God. We're in Florida. We need ND filters. So the issue that you usually run into if you are using ND filters is one of two things. One, you forget your ND and you might need to use like a matte box or something. You know, like having an ND in your kit is good, but sometimes you might be working on one lens and the ND filter fits that lens, or like it'll fit that lens and then you need to switch lenses, and unless you have step down rings, you won't be able to use your ND filter anymore. So that's one way that you can use an ND filter, is either with it fitting right on the lens, which we have a couple of, or you can have a matte box, which is just a little box that goes in front of your lens, and then you can slide in ND filters. But to get around all of that, the second way you can have ND filters is built into the camera. And what it ends up doing is it gives you different stops of your NDs. So by having 2, 4, and 6 stops of NDs, you can now not have to, let's say it's too bright out and you don't have an ND filter that fits your lens. The two other things that you can do are by cranking up your shutter speed. And if you do that, you don't get good motion blur. Go watch our Gemini Man video to understand more about motion blur. And if you don't want to hike up your shutter speed, then you'll have to like squeeze down your aperture. By doing that, you don't get a nice shallow depth of field, and you don't get that cinematic look. So this gets around that by giving you a couple of stops of ND filters, basically sunglasses for your camera. And we have a variable ND filter, which is super useful. The Sony FX6 has a variable ND kind of thing where it's like electronic, and this one goes 2, 4, and 6 stops, which is good because now you have like a couple of different stops of ND. But by having a variable ND or the electronic ND filter that Sony has, you can actually go in between those. So instead of having like 3 major stops, you have like infinite. It's crazy cool. So that's only on the Sony FX6, but on this you have just being able to have ND built into your camera is so good, because the 2 different kinds of here, and I'm going to show you my face so I can elaborate a little bit more, is that the 2 major kinds of cameras that are out right now. And this camera is actually, the 3 different prices are now that the 4K is about $1,200, how much it was when it launched. Then the 6K actually dropped down to $2,000. So that the 6K Pro could be $2,500, which is what the 6K was when it launched. And the thing is, around that price range, you are usually getting one of 2 types of cameras now, which is the Sony, Canon, those kind of cameras that do a lot of stuff for you, like autofocus, in-body image stabilization, flip out screens. It's nice and compact and easy to use. Gets you a little bit more like photo modes, stuff like that. But it doesn't record in RAW. It usually records in some sort of H.264, H.265, and it gets you like a flat picture profile. Or you can get one of these, which gives you RAW, but doesn't give you a lot of those other features. It gives you more of those kind of cinema camera features, and one of which is an ND filter. So this is getting closer to the cinema camera that people love to use, because those have a lot of things built in, like a full-size XLR cable, like adapter, an ND filter, and RAW video abilities. Because if you're using a Sony or a Canon and they have a flat picture profile, that's fine. But by having RAW, you have more capability to, like, in post, you might be able to change your ISO values. You might be able to change, like, get more detail out of your highlights or detail out of your shadows. And so RAW alone is so useful and nice to have. So that's basically what's happening, is you could either spend $2,500 on a prosumer camera that will have in-body image stabilization and all that kind of stuff, like the A7 III or the A7S III, or you can get like this kind of cinema camera and get RAW that is going to be way lighter on your computer. Oh my god. The Sonys and the Canons, if they use H.265, that's still going to be like 4K 120 frames per second or 6K footage. But your computer, since it's like compressed, your computer is going to have to uncompress that basically while like in real time, which is hard on your processor. But RAW takes up more data, but it is completely like so nice on your computer because it just gives you all the data. You don't need to uncompress or do anything live. You're not working your CPU or your GPU. It just has all the information there for you. So like Blackmagic is already really good at making like compressed RAW, like giving you different types of compression. So having the 6K or having these kind of cameras is just so nice to have. So I'm so excited. And the one other thing that I need to mention, we'll get into later, is that it uses the F570 NP style batteries, which are the Sony style batteries that everyone basically has because most lights use them. Like most lights that you probably have at your house use this exact type of battery. So you probably have these batteries lying around. Like, oh, I'm so excited because the old ones, the 4K and the 6K, use these Canon batteries that like some people might already have, and I definitely don't. So I'm just excited to have like batteries lying around that we can use. We usually use V-mounts to power this big old behemoth, but by having these Sony batteries, now we can strip down the camera a bit more, put it onto a quick like handheld mode or put it on a gimbal or something like that. It's much easier if you just have batteries that live in the camera instead of trying to like route out to a V-mount. So that's super cool. It has a grip, 6K, 6K Pro. Oh yeah, here we go. So the 4K uses micro four thirds sensor. And the problem with that is that it's a lower, I think they actually, yeah. So it's a lower size. and that means that less light is hitting the lens. So you get less of a shallow depth of field, while with this more light that's hitting the lens, you get a much deeper, shallower depth of field. That's it. This one's a deep depth of field, this is a shallow depth of field. That comes from the size of the sensor, which is interesting because, yeah, just by 2 millimeters on like this side and 5 millimeters on that side, you get so much more depth of field, which is fantastic. It's compatible with all my lenses. Love it. And oh, here it is. Yes. So you see the highlights are so blown out, but then at just 2 stops, get all that blue back. And you keep going. I wouldn't go this dark, but the more dark you go, you can bring that back up in post. I wouldn't recommend that, but regardless, like, you just use 2 stops, looks great. If it's super bright out, you can go even farther. So for us here in Florida, this is a must. Like, oh my God, I need this right now, because showing up to a set without your ND filters in Florida is, you're a glutton for punishment if you're doing that. And it seems like these are for high dynamic range images, which is great. I was in our Sonic Ring video, I talk about high dynamic range images. You can see that, like, right here, we have all these whites that are completely blown out. But here in the high dynamic range image, you can save all that detail because your dynamic range is so much higher that in those whites you get more data, in the blacks you get more data that you can then kind of salvage in post if something's happened. That's super good. Just like with the other Blackmagic cameras, it has the dual native ISO. So at 400 ISO, you have no noise. And that 200 ISO, you have no noise. So it's good. We've already had that before. Same thing with, now this is different. I might be spreading, so I need to do more research. But a rumor I've heard about the 6K Pro is that it can do 4K at Blackmagic Raw. So the thing about that kind of sucks about the 6K that we have now is that when you get the Blackmagic Pocket 4K, it does 4K Raw, which is great. Now, if you get the 6K, it does 6K Raw, but 4K at ProRes, which is fine. But like Blackmagic Raw is really good. It gives you so much data. So the fact that they don't let you do 4K Raw kind of sucks because you might not want all of that 6K data. So by giving you, as well as their compression is so good on Blackmagic Raw. If you do 12:1 compression, a lot of the times, like if you're making stuff for like YouTube like we do, the audience isn't going to be able to tell a lot of the time. So by using 12:1 compression on 6K, that's fine. You know, it'll compress it a good amount. But if you can do it on 4K on the 6K sensor, then not only are you getting that nice shallow depth of field that we saw on the bigger sensor, but you're saving more data. If you just want to do 4K, you don't need all of the 6K file. So I don't know if this is true yet. I've heard that the Blackmagic 6K Pro can do both 4K and 6K RAW. I just saw that on a forum. I have not corroborated that yet. This camera is still in pre-order, so we don't even know yet. But I am super about it. And of course, we have the friendly formats. So we have Blackmagic Raw, and Blackmagic Raw is so great. It's, man, I love it. Works really well with all of our video editing software. You can use CFast, which we do. I love SSDs, dude. If you can put all your footage on an SSD and then plug it in your computer and start editing on that same SSD, it's so nice. But also, it works with SD cards, like all the Blackmagics do. But yeah, I would recommend like a V120 or a V90 SD card so that it can get all of that data. Like you can record 6K straight onto that SD card. So don't try to record 6K onto a regular SD card because those are usually V30 and they have lower transfer speeds. So you'll run into that thing where it just stops recording. Then we have the color grading. Yep, look at all this. Oh, that's sweet, sweet data. Yes, great. And then, like I said, we have the flip-up screen, which is amazing. And as we know, definitely, the Blackmagic menu system is just so much better than so many other cameras out there. Like, we all know that the Sony, oh my God, the Sony menu system is such a nightmare. Alan and I were on a shoot, and I asked him to change, like, hey, can you change your white balance? And he's like, yeah, sure. And he was on the Blackmagic. It took me like a good 15 seconds to try to like get to that menu. You have to press a couple things. On the Blackmagic, it's on the main screen. So it was very quick for him to do so. Actually, yeah, you can see it right here. Wait, let's see here. So, okay, so here's the iris. Literally, you click on that and there's the iris. Click on this, it's the white balance. And then, yeah, you click on this and that's the ISO. That's on the main screen. It's so easy to use. Anyway, that's already something that you can get with the 4K or the 6K. I just need to gush about it. It has a new OS. Don't know about that, but that's pretty cool. You can put in 3D LUTs. Oh, that's awesome. You can load your LUTs onto the camera, which is great. And I think you could already do that, but we never gave it a try, so that's definitely something I'm going to give it a shot. Has their color science, which is great. Has their little viewfinder, which is awesome because now you can just, if it's too bright out, you can just look through the viewfinder, or you can take it off. Apparently it's removable, which I love. And yeah, you have all of these connections. I love it. Like I said, got to the 2 XLRs, so you can just get your audio right into the camera. You don't need to have an external recorder. I think it's always good to use scratch audio and an external recorder so that you can just have a backup. But I mean, if you're just having a really simple setup, this looks great, and it has phantom power. So if you have a microphone that needs power, this will actually deliver it from your camera. You don't need to do something else crazy. It's just right there. Yep, like I said, it has 4 built-in professional audio inputs. Has the microphone, headphone jack, and the 2 XLRs. And yeah, here we go with the LUTs. So yeah, oh look at this is great. So these you can just throw onto your camera. Yeah, like so this is the regular Blackmagic film profile, and then you can just immediately look at that. Ooh, crispy, crunchy. Oh my gosh, those whites. Look at them blacks. Beautiful. Same thing with this. Ooh, nice. It's nice and cool. Okay. Anyway, beautiful. And then yeah, and you can record onto USB-C using an SSD. We usually use the I think it's the Samsung T5 hard drives, and they're amazing. Like I really recommend like recording on an SSD, and then you can get time code, and you can get some still frames. I don't trust this camera with photography, but it's nice to have. Get different languages, record with Bluetooth. This app's pretty good, but this is all stuff that the other Blackmagics have had. You can charge with USB-C. Yes, please. I love USB-C. It's amazing. So this is useful if you show up on set and you don't have your actual charger. You can charge with your USB-C, it seems. Which is awesome. And yes, look at this. This is the kind of battery. You probably have seen this before. You probably have this. Like, I'm so excited because we have a million of these. So this is going to be, it's going to be amazing. I'm so excited. And you have the, I guess it just works with, it works as a studio camera, which is great. We actually got the ATEM, which I mentioned earlier, and I love the fact that it just, like right here. So the camera's plugged in the ATEM. The thing that's great is if you switch, like you're switching, if you turn on like that, the program camera is now one of the Blackmagics, it'll say on the screen like on air. So the actual operator knows that they're on air. I just love that. I love that feature. All of their stuff works so well together. I love it. And like I said before, $2,500 and this baby can be yours. So we're probably going to be in the process of seeing what we can do with the 6K, but looking towards the 6K Pro, because this just has the new features that it has are such good additions that I can't not see them being a benefit to us, because not only do I not really have the batteries that this frickin' thing needs, but we have a million of the batteries this one has 3 different stops of ND filters, and it has viewfinder / nice bright screen. So it is just way more usable, and it already fits the exact same use cases for our 6K. Just going to be nicer. So that's all my stuff on the 6K. I've checked some of the other sites, and a lot of them just have the same information. Like you could pre-order it from Autorama and stuff like that, but like I just cannot wait. I'm so psyched for this camera, and I hope you guys are too. So let me know what you think in the comments. Oh my god, I just love Blackmagic. I love everything they do. I've been messing around with their ATEM, and it is so good. So yep, let me know what you guys think. Thank you so much for watching, and yeah, I hope you learned something, either about cameras or about just the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera line of cameras. So thank you guys so much, and have a great day. I'm gonna just stare at these cameras. Oh man, this is a chunky boy, a little chunk, but I don't mind it. Oh man, that is awesome.